What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite sleepers to draft in 2025 fantasy hockey. I've talked about this in other videos, but I do want to make it clear that what constitutes as a sleeper is going to depend on your league settings and also average draft position. For example, if you're in a category league with hits, then Vincent Trocheck is a massive sleeper. It's still early, but we did see in camp that he is on power play 1. This is a guy that can put up 200 shots, 200 hits, and put up 60 to 70 points. To be honest, he's still a sleeper regardless of league settings, but his value is going to be way higher if you're in a league with hits. So that's just one example as to why you need to understand your league settings. By the way, speaking of training camp, make sure you follow me on X/Twitter at FiredUpFantasy. I am updating you guys in real time on the even strength lines, the power play lines, injuries. There is so much information that has come out. We're going to make a video dedicated to this, but the best way to get that info is by following me on there. Now, also in terms of ADP, the people that are watching this video, I'm assuming most of you are drafting on Yahoo, but I know some of you are drafting on ESPN as well. I've used this example in previous videos, but Kirill Marchenko is great value on Yahoo, but on ESPN, not so much. I will try my best to cover a multitude of different league settings across platforms, but please keep this in mind. There are certain players that are going to be sleepers on certain platforms over others. Also, one more thing, there are players that I consider good value in the early rounds. A player like Jack Hughes, a player like Martin Necas, a player like Jake Sanderson. I'm not going to be talking about these players today. We're going to be making separate videos on the best and worst value on different platforms, so stay tuned for that. But for this video, we're just going to be looking at players past 75 ADP. With that being said, let's get into it. Let's talk about these sleepers, and let's start with Valeri Nichushkin of the Colorado Avalanche. I feel like Nichushkin is in these videos every year, but I keep having to talk about him because he always slips so far in everyone's drafts. I get it, guys. He's a risky pick. He has not played a full season since the 2015-2016 year with the Dallas Stars, mainly due to the constant injuries and the off-ice issues. Now, I say this, but have you ever considered what Nichushkin would look like if he played a full year? Really look at his stats. This guy could be a 40-goal, point-per-game player with insane shots, hits, and blocks. This year, he is going into camp and in the season healthy, no off-ice issues, and right now in camp, he is playing line 1 with McKinnon and Necas, and also on the top power play unit as well. This is a player that could perform as a top 40 pick in fantasy, and yet his ADP on Yahoo is 101. His expert rank is insanely low as well, so there's a chance you can get him even later depending on how casual your league mates are. So do yourself a favor and draft Nichushkin. We also need to talk about Seth Jones. Yes, it depends on your league settings, but he has insane shots, hits, and blocks, so in a category league he has a massive advantage, and also he's surrounded by the best line mates of his career, and I think there's a good chance he's quarterbacking this power play 1. And if he's quarterbacking this power play 1, you could see 10 plus goals, 50 to 60 points with elite shots, hits, and blocks. His ADP on Yahoo is 93, and I think this is great value. We also need to talk about Kirill Marchenko. Yes, on ESPN, his value is not good, so avoid him in those leagues. But if you're talking about Yahoo, his ADP is close to 100. This is because Yahoo's expert ranking has him as the 264th rank. This means that people will have to scroll down or sort by ADP to find him, and you could see that he's only getting drafted in 88% of drafts. This means that if you're playing with casual league mates, you may be able to even get him later than his current ADP of 100. So do yourself a favor and pick up a guy that's line 1, power play 1, could score 40 goals, a 26-year-old ascending player with a lot of upside who has improved every single season in the NHL. Now let's talk about my boy Dylan Guenther, my favorite player to draft last season. I think this guy is a future 50 goal scorer, and his price on Yahoo is ridiculous. I will say though, on Drafters Fantasy Sports, use code FIREDUP for 100% match deposit up to $100 in bonus funds. His ADP is 44. I'm not a fan of this, so it does depend on your platform, but Yahoo's ADP is 110. So on Yahoo, I am drafting him all day long. Next up, let's talk about my favorite sleeper in all of 2025 fantasy hockey. That player is Mika Zibanejad. Yes, he's in the thumbnail. Yes, I've talked about him quite a bit, but this is the best value across pretty much every single platform. His ADP on Yahoo is 135.5. Absolutely egregious. This is a player that could perform like a top 50 fantasy player, and getting him at this price feels like I'm stealing. We saw when JT Miller joined the Rangers last year, Zibanejad had 33 points in 32 games. He was an over point per game player. They developed chemistry on that line. It looks like they're going to keep that line together. They're going to staple him to Miller and put Zibanejad on the wing as well, which is definitely a positive for his game offensively. He doesn't have to always be driving the line and carrying those defensive responsibilities. No, he can focus on offense, and I think he's going to blossom. We have to remember that last season, the line that he was on was Chris Kreider, who had the worst season of his career, or the worst season in a very long time, and Riley Smith, who just didn't fit. We also know the Rangers had a bottom 5 power play in the NHL last season, which is not going to happen again. So considering all these facts, getting a guy like Zibanejad on a platform like Yahoo, center right wing eligibility, 135, is probably the biggest steal in fantasy hockey. Next up, we got to talk about a defenseman who is also one of my favorite sleepers in 2025 fantasy hockey. That guy being Morgan Rielly of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Rielly's ADP on Yahoo is 137. Across most platforms, he's going pretty late. And this is a player that has a lot of upside from that ADP. You do have some risk that Oliver Ekman-Larsson could be power play 1 at some point if Rielly struggles on there, but they've made it clear, or Brube has made it clear, that Rielly is the guy to start quarterback in this power play 1 to start the season. He's familiar with this power play. They trust in him. He focused too much on the defensive side of things last season, and he also put in a lot of work in the offseason as well. We're hearing a lot of good things about Rielly. I'm a fan of it, and if we do see him power play 1 for the entire season, this is a defenseman who could score 10 plus goals, put up 50 to 60 points, and also good peripherals as well. He's my most drafted defenseman on drafters right now. I think it's like 25% or something. Maybe it won't pay off, but I feel confident Rielly is going to have a bounce back year. Next up, let's talk about another defenseman that I really like. That guy being Jackson Lacombe of the Anaheim Ducks. Right now, Lacombe's ADP on Yahoo is 120, and because he's not really a known name, there's a chance you can grab him later if you're playing with casual league mates. Lacombe sort of came out of nowhere last year. He put up 14 goals and a total of 43 points in 75 games on the Ducks, who were not a playoff team, obviously, and also had the worst power play percentage in the NHL. He only had 9 power play points, so a lot of these points came from even strength, and for the first full half of last season, he wasn't getting a lot of minutes. The thing is, though, he impressed so much that he quickly became their top pairing guy, getting the most power play time as the season went on. So I think that goes to show how much of an improvement Lacombe has made in his game, and watching him play, guys, he looks so good out there. This is also a team that only got better. They got rid of Greg Cronin. They have Joel Quenneville coming in. They added Chris Kreider, Mikael Granlund. They have a bunch of young players who could take another step forward. And this could potentially even be a playoff team for this upcoming season. I'm not saying that's going to happen, and there could be some regression from Lacombe in the goal scoring department, and maybe he won't be power play 1 because we do have a new head coach. But nonetheless, this is a player that could put up 50 points and 10 goals, and also really good shots, hits, and blocks. You can put up 150 plus shots, maybe 100 hits, 150 blocks. There's just a lot of upside from this ADP. Even if he doesn't hit the total high upside case, I think this is a pretty safe pick at his price. So definitely a big fan, and I'm definitely targeting him in my upcoming redraft leagues. Moving on, let's talk about 3 centers that I think are great value at their current ADP on Yahoo and other platforms as well. These guys being Joel Eriksson Ek, Vincent Trocheck, and Sam Bennett. Now, I do want to say here, if your league doesn't count hits, I still like these guys. I think they're great value regardless. But if your league does count hits, if you're in a category league with hits, or your league manager added hits to your points league and it's decently weighted, these guys are some of the biggest sleepers in fantasy hockey. We'll start off with Joel Eriksson Ek. This is a guy that's solidified in the top 6. Yes, in camp, he is not playing with Kaprizov, but it's so early. I think they're going to stack that line at certain times in certain games. Eriksson Ek, Boldy, and Kaprizov. We've seen Kaprizov play a lot with Eriksson Ek, so I'm not too worried about it. And he's a lock to be the net front player on power play 1 as well. Eriksson Ek is a guy who can put up 250 shots, which provides an extremely safe floor in fantasy. If your league counts hits, he could put up 150 plus hits as well, which is massive, guys. Not a lot of players can do this with the shots. And he's also a guy that can put up 30 goals and 60 to 7 points. So this is sort of a fantasy unicorn in a lot of senses. And at his current ADP of 126, I'm all in. Another center here is Vincent Trocheck. I was hesitant with Trocheck because I wasn't sure what the power play 1 was going to look like. I thought maybe Alexi Lafreniere can get on there. I don't know what I was thinking. I just thought maybe they would mix it up. But what we're seeing right now is Miller net front, Trocheck bumper, Fox running the point, Zibanejad on the left circle. And because Panarin is out with an injury, they have Alexi Lafreniere on the right side. Maybe this power play changes when Panarin gets back, and maybe they experiment and they like Alexi Lafreniere on there over Trocheck, because it is a little bit weird to have all of those centers on power play 1. But regardless, if Trocheck is on power play 1, you're looking at a guy that's playing with Panarin even strength on a power play that I think is going to bounce back in a big way, could put up 60 to 70 points with 200 shots and also 200 hits. Again, depending on your league, Trocheck could be a top 50 or top 60 player with these peripherals. So at this price, getting those pure C's later, I'm such a massive fan. The last last center in this elite grouping is Sam Bennett. He's even going later than these two at 149 ADP. This pick feels like a no-brainer regardless of league settings. If your league doesn't count hits, he still has insane shot volume. He was among the very best in the NHL last season. And if your league counts hits, then he is a fantasy unicorn. He obviously has those peripherals, but this is also a guy who's been a pretty consistent like 25 goal, 55 point player for the last couple of years. And we also know that Matthew Tkachuk is set to miss time until at least December, maybe even longer, could be January. And typically when Matthew Tkachuk is out, they have Sam Bennett on power play 1. There's no guarantee. They do have a lot of guys on there, but Bennett is a great net front player, a position that Tkachuk plays on this man advantage. So I think you're looking at a guy that even has higher point upside than he does normally at this price of 149 ADP. It's like the most no-brainer pick, especially if you're avoiding those centers early like I'm telling you to do. I'll also quickly mention Bo Horvat. His ADP is 150. He's going to be line 1 or in the top 6, power play 1, potentially score 30 goals and put up like 65 points. So yeah, at 150 when you're fading centers early, getting these type of guys late, this is pretty good. The next sleeper on this list is Pavel Dorofeyev of the Vegas Golden Knights. I've talked about him in previous videos. I've drafted him quite a bit this season in my best ball drafts. I'm a big fan, and he has a lot of upside from his current ADP. His ADP on Yahoo is 131, super low expert ranking, which is what Yahoo automatically sorts by when you enter a draft. If you're playing with casual league mates, you're going to be able to get this guy even later. And the upside case for Dorofeyev is pretty simple. He's 24 years old in a really good offense, really good power play, could be top 5 in the NHL. And last season, he scored 35 goals and put up 250 shots. He was 11th in shots last season. And we know in a lot of fantasy leagues, like a Yahoo default points league or category league, shots are very important. If you're drafting on Yahoo, he has left wing, right wing eligibility as well. And in general, this is a player that is still young and could take another step forward. I only have 2 concerns with Dorofeyev. The big one is that he just got injured in a preseason game 2 nights ago. It's not reported to be serious, but we really don't have many details on what happened. It's a lower body injury. And I think the concern I have is that they're going to be running a potentially different power play in camp coming up because Dorofeyev may be sitting out. There's a lot of questions surrounding this Vegas power play. I'm projecting Dorofeyev to be on there, but there's a chance that if he's out and they're running a power play with him not on it and it's clicking, he might not get back on it. The only other concern I have is they don't have him on the top line with Marner and Eichel. Them talking about Hurdle having chemistry with Dorofeyev, even strength. That's fine, guys. Like, as long as he's getting top 6 minutes. But I don't really love the way they're rolling the lines. And with Marner added to the team, they have Stone on the 3rd line with William Carlsson. And that means they may be spreading out the ice time, limiting Dorofeyev's upside. We'll see what happens. It's still early in camp. And as long as he's on a line with Hurdle, he's going to get good ice time. But you're not going to see a big ice time bump for Dorofeyev if this is what the lines look like. Overall, to sum everything up, I've cooled off a tiny bit on Dorofeyev because of this injury and because of the uncertainty that we're going to see in camp now. But I still think at his price at 130 ADP, probably falling further because of this uncertainty, maybe going to like 140 or 150. I think there's insane value and upside from this ADP, and I'm still going to draft him. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he's right back in camp in the next few days and the injury's fine. And hopefully he ends up on power play 1. Next up, let's talk about a player that I think is going way too late on a platform like Yahoo, that guy being Brock Boeser of the Vancouver Canucks. His ADP is 171.3, and I think this is pretty insane value for a top-line power play 1 guy who could bounce back. The Canucks were a mess last year. Elias Pettersson was injured in the JT Miller drama. Quinn Hughes got injured for a stretch, and if we see the Canucks team bounce back and go back to some of the levels they were at a couple of years ago, Boeser could be a 30 to 35 goal player and put up 60 to 70 points. His plus-minus wasn't great last year, but I think the Canucks are going to get better, and it's going to normalize. And at this ADP, what do you have to lose? This is basically a free pick for a guy that scored 40 goals 2 seasons ago on a line with the player in Elias Pettersson, who definitely should bounce back from his 56 or 57 point pace that he had last year. Another sleeper that we have to talk about here is currently going undrafted on Yahoo is Troy Terry of the Anaheim Ducks. Terry's a player that should be line 1 and power play 1, and he's also on this Ducks team that is the best it's been in a number of years. You have Greg Cronin out, Joel Quenneville in, you add Granlund and Kreider, you have a bunch of young players that could progress. They have Jacob Trouba there now. Jackson Lacombe has emerged as this top pairing defenseman, and the Ducks could actually be close to a playoff team very soon. We also need to remember that the Ducks had the worst power play percentage in the NHL last year. If we see this power play improve, then that's obviously going to help Troy Terry's production. The fact is that his even strength production in the last couple of years has been pretty good. He only had 11 power play points last season, so if this goes up to like 20, he could be a guy that puts up 65 to 70 points. In general, just being a guy that's going undrafted drafted, this is pretty insane value. Another Ducks guy that I'm a massive fan of is Cutter Gauthier. Gauthier is 21 years old, elite numbers in college. He had 38 goals in 41 games in his last season with Boston College. And in his rookie season last year, he was pretty darn good. On this terrible Ducks team with the worst power play percentage in the NHL, he had 20 goals and a total of 44 points in 82 games. Also with only averaging 14 minutes and 9 seconds of ice time per game. Only 6 of his points came from the man advantage. If we saw him get on a solidified power play 1 and we got those power play points up to 20 and he potentially got top 6 minutes even strength as well, I think he could be a player that scores 30 plus goals and 60 plus points. We also have to talk about his shots, guys. We know that in these Yahoo default points league, shots are heavily weighted, and he put up 190 shots, only averaging 14 minutes and 9 seconds of ice time per game. That is absolutely elite, guys. If we see him get like 16 or 17 minutes, he could put up like 250 shots. And we also can see maybe in a couple of years him being a 300 plus shot guy. If I was in a dynasty league, I am buying this guy all day long. I'm not sure if this season is the year that he's going to have a massive breakout, because I don't know how they're going to roll the lines or spread out the power play units. It could be a situation where he's getting similar ice time, but at his current ADP, I'm a big fan. I also want to talk about my other favorite breakout candidate this season, Quinton Byfield of the Los Angeles Kings. I think this one's pretty obvious if you guys have watched Byfield play. He is absolutely electric. The breakout case is simple. He's 23 years old. He's in the top 6 on the Kings on a line with Kevin Fiala and Alex Laferriere. He got 18 minutes and 30 seconds of ice time per game last season. Right now in camp, he is on power play 1. They're running a 5-forward power play. We'll see if that lasts, but that's a big thing for his breakout as well, because last season he only had 7 power play points. If he's power play 1 all season long, there's a chance he could put up 70 plus points, and you're getting this guy pretty late in your drafts. Looking at Yahoo, his ADP is like 145. Hopefully we see his shot volume go up. His hits are good as well if your league counts those. And we also need to mention that Anze Kopitar is retiring after this season, so they are going to be transitioning into Byfield being their #1 center. All things considered, Byfield has to be one of the most exciting breakout players this season, so I would definitely suggest taking a look at him in your upcoming drafts. I also like Jake DeBrusk. He's a net front guy in this Vancouver power play. He's getting top 6 minutes, decent hits as well if your league counts those. Feels pretty good at his current ADP of 176. I definitely like that. And another guy that's sort of similar in terms of, the hits they put up and what they can do as a net front player is Chris Kreider. He's going right beside DeBrusk at 175. Your league values hits, he's definitely a guy you want to take a look at. And I think he should be the net front guy on this power play 1 on the Ducks. Even if they split the units, he should be getting top 6 minutes. And I think he should bounce back a bit from last year, because I feel like last year was rock bottom. Let's bring up a defenseman, a guy that's going super late in drafts, Sam Rinzel of the Chicago Blackhawks. If you're in a plus-minus league, then I don't know if I would target this guy, because the Blackhawks are projected to be one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NHL this season. But nonetheless, Rinzel is a guy that should be getting top pairing minutes. That's what it's looking like in camp. And also, he is quarterbacking power play 1 as well. There is some competition and risk with Levshunov there, but I feel like Rinzel is the better offensive defenseman. Might be a hot take, but he has really impressed me in the games that he's played in and the film that I've studied on him. I think he's going to be very solid, and he could put up solid peripherals as well, right? He could be a guy that's taking 150 shots, like 80 hits, maybe like 120 blocks. With the ice time that he's getting on the Blackhawks, he's going to be blocking a lot of shots. So I think at his current price of 171.9 ADP, a defenseman that could put up 40 points and maybe even 10 goals, this feels like really good value. Now, I want to rapid fire go over some of these players that I think are really good value in your later rounds, but it will depend on your league settings. Obviously, some of these guys are going to have better hits than others, so they could actually be really good value. Depends if your league counts hits. But another big thing that could be an issue with some of these players is plus minus. Considering this, the first player that comes to my mind is Brian Rust of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I always talk about Brian Rust as a massive sleeper every single season, because if we're looking at his past few seasons, he's been on pace for 70 plus points in a bunch of them. In fact, 3 of his last 4 seasons, he's been close to a point per game, guys. He had 65 points in 71 games last season, including 31 goals. This put him on pace for 35 goals, and I talked about Rust as a sleeper last year, but I didn't include the fact that he could be a liability plus minus. He was a minus 21 last year, so there is some concern there, but if you don't have plus minus, this is an insane value. Another player that's going even later than Brian Rust is Patrick Kane of the Detroit Red Wings. His ADP is 163. He's only 21% drafted, and I don't really understand this. Kane has a solidified role in the top 6. He's a guy that can still put up 60 to 70 points on a power play that was top 5 in the NHL last season, and he's also a winger, which is not necessarily a deep position. The only issue is plus minus, though. If you're in a plus minus league, wouldn't necessarily grab him, but if not, this is massive value. Another player on a bad team that is pretty good value if your league doesn't count plus minus is Tyler Toffoli of the San Jose Sharks. Toffoli had 30 goals in 78 games last year, a total of 54 points. It's pretty solid for his current ADP of 173.5 on Yahoo. And a big thing that really stands out to me with Toffoli is his shot volume. He had 233 shots last year among the very best. Obviously, I don't think there's an insane ceiling with Toffoli, but he does have a pretty solidified role in the top 6 on power play 1, getting the shot volume. Okay hits as well if your league counts those. So like I said with these other guys, if your league doesn't value plus minus heavily like a Yahoo default points league does, this is definitely a sleeper. Another player in this range, his ADP is like 165 on Yahoo, is Morgan Geekie of the Boston Bruins. I'm sure a lot of you may have faced off against somebody that had Morgan Geekie in March last season. He was going off like crazy. He definitely won people their fantasy hockey championships. And in general, this is a player that sort of solidified themselves on the top line with David Pastrnak, and also on power play 1 as well. I do have some level of concern with David Pastrnak's knee tendonitis, and the Bruins are not going to be a great team, but I do think this is a guy that can score 30 goals again and put up 60 points with also really good hits. He had like 110 hits last year. He only averaged like 16 minutes of ice time per game, so if we see that increase, maybe the hits go up to like 150. And if your league values hits at this price, I think he's pretty solid. I also want to fire off some centers that are going super late in drafts. One of these guys being Dylan Cozens. Cozens' current ADP is 168, and this is a guy who should be in the top 6, should be power play 1, can put up a good amount of shots, a lot of hits as well. Last year he had 205, a little bit of an outlier though, but I think he's good for 100. And honestly, I think 30 goals and 60 points is definitely a possibility. After Dylan Cozens, there's not a lot of centers that provide the type of value he provides here. So yeah, I just think it's good value. I think Adam Fantilli, who goes right after Dylan Cozens at 170, is also a pretty good pick. I'm not projecting him to be power play 1 because I think Monahan is really good in the bumper and he's the guy for faceoffs, but maybe he can get on there for Ken Johnson. I don't know, guys. Fantilli is just so talented. I think he's just going to get better and better. This year might not be the season where he has a true breakout. That might happen next season, but I think at this price at 170 for a guy that also puts up really good shots, hits and blocks as well, I'm definitely a fan. Another player we have to talk about here is Marco Rossi of the Minnesota Wild. Now with Marco Rossi, I wasn't really that high on him for this upcoming season because I didn't see him being on power play 1 unless there was an injury, but we got that injury with Matt Zuccarello. We don't know the extent of this injury, but we know he went to a doctor a couple of days ago to figure out if he needed surgery, so that doesn't sound great. And if that's the case, then Rossi could be line 1 with Kaprizov in power play 1 for the majority of the season. Rossi was really good last year, 60 points in 82 games, only 16 of these points coming from the man advantage. We could see this maybe get up to 25 or 30 if he is on power play 1 all season long. And if we do see him play with Kaprizov like we see in camp right now, there's a chance that he could be a point per game player. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. It really depends on the Zuccarello injury, but with his sort of prospect profile coming into the league, the type of production that he put in the juniors and what he's done so far in his career at sort of the prime breakout age of 24 years old, I am a massive fan. He's only 4% drafted on Yahoo. His ADP is 176. And even though his shots, hits and blocks are going to be pretty terrible, I think at this price, you are getting a ton of value. Another center that's sort of a part of this package going super late is Josh Norris of the Buffalo Sabres. He is a band-aid, so I understand the concern, but it's not like you're reaching for him. He's going undrafted on Yahoo right now. You're going to be able to get him super late. And right now, he's line 1 with Tage, which is awesome, and also power play 1 as well. I'm not expecting the moon out of Josh Norris, but if this deployment sticks and he stays healthy, he could score 30 goals and put up 60 to 65 points. And he's also a guy that puts up really good hits, guys. If your league values hits, he is super underrated. He had 135 hits in 56 games last season. Maybe a tiny bit of an outlier, but I think he's good for 150 hits, and that is going to provide a lot of value. Let's quickly go over some deeper league guys that I think are worth a look in your later rounds, starting off with Cam Fowler. The only issue I have with Fowler is his shots, hits, and blocks are very bad, so it depends on your league, of course. He's going to be at a disadvantage in certain leagues, but regardless, you're getting him at like pick 154, and this is a defenseman that could be quarterbacking power play 1 on the Blues and putting up like 40 to 50 points. It's all about ADP value here, so I think that's pretty good price. And I guess another guy as well that you might want to take a look at is Tony DeAngelo. Now, yes, there is a risk that Schaefer could take over power play 1, but DeAngelo is a guy that you're getting at 170 ADP. He's only 25% drafted on Yahoo. His expert rank is super low, so you're basically getting him for free depending on your league size, and he could be a player that's putting up 40 to 50 points, quarterbacking this power play 1 all season long. His plus minus is probably going to be pretty bad, so do not draft him in a plus minus league, but I recognize the value at this ADP. We also got to talk about Leo Carlsson here of the Ducks. Massive breakout potential. Obviously, he is still young, and I don't know if this is a year where he really pops off, but like I said, with these other Ducks players that I mentioned earlier, new head coach, new additions to the team, lots of young players that have made improvements and could progress further, and I do think if he's getting the ice time, top line and power play 1, he could potentially put up 70 points. The only issue is that his shot sets and blocks are not very good, and he only has center eligibility on some platforms, but he's also going undrafted, so as like a late round flyer pick, I like it. Will Smith, this is a guy that's moving to the wing. He could be playing with Celebrini first line. He really came on in the second half of last season, got put on power play 1. He has a sneaky good shot, and he's also a fantastic playmaker. This is a guy that could put up 60 to 70 points, and even though his peripherals aren't very good and he could be a plus minus, I think his ADP is pretty solid value. I should also mention Cole Perfetti here, ADP of 172, triple eligibility on Yahoo, which is a big advantage. And this is a guy that should be power play 1 with Nikolai Ehlers being gone, and he's going to be on the second line as well. He's going to be getting top 6 minutes. So this is a player that could put up 60 to 65 points, maybe some room for more, but I wouldn't bet on it. And I think at this value for a player that can put up those points, that's pretty solid. Another guy is going to be Frank Nazar. Again, the plus minus could be terrible, depends on your league, but he is going undrafted right now. He is a pure C, very deep position, so probably a deeper league, but he is in the top 6. He should be centering that second line, and he's also on power play 1 as well in camp. So you're looking at a player with a lot of skill that could put up 60-ish points, and going undrafted, that's pretty good. Another pure center that has a lot of upside as well is Trevor Zegras. In camp, they're kind of mixing things up, but it seems like they may actually like him on the first line with Matvei Michkov, which excites me quite a bit, and he's also on power play 1 as well. So he could go back to being like a 60 to 65 point player with maybe room for more. Zegras is only 24 and he put up 65 points 3 seasons ago, and he's going to be with an upcoming superstar in Matvei Michkov. So getting him undrafted feels pretty nice. We should also mention Oliver Bjorkstrand as well of the Tampa Bay Lightning, only 4% drafted on Yahoo, 175 ADP. I don't love the even strength deployment. They have him on the third line, but they do have him on the first power play unit, a power play that should be top 5 or top 10 in the NHL. We'll see what they do in camp because Hagel's still there. You have a few other guys, but it sounds like they need a righty on this power play, maybe in the bumper. That's where they have him for some reason. But I could see Bjorkstrand on that left side as well. So I just think on this power play, he could put up like 50 to 60 points with some pretty good weeks. I also quickly shout out Sean Couturier, a very deep option. They may have him first line with Michkov, could be Zegras, but I think Couturier should be in the top 6. And they have him on power play 1 as well. I think this power play should improve under Tocchet and with some of the guys that they added. Maybe Cates takes Couturier off for faceoffs, but as of right now, a top 6 player on power play 1, going undrafted, going super late. Also, one last thing, I just want to hammer in this point. I talked about this earlier in the beginning of the video, but if you're in a category league with hits or your points league decently values hits as well, then there are going to be sleepers that I did not talk about in this video. For example, in a category league, Andrei Svechnikov is a massive sleeper. I think his ADP is like 110 on Yahoo. He's on power play 1 in camp, a power play that I think is going to be really good. He's in the top 6 like he always is, and there is a chance he bounces back as well. In those type of leagues, he's going to have massive value. He could put up like 150 or 200 hits, so he could end up performing like a top 50 player. But if your league doesn't count hits, then I wouldn't call him the biggest sleeper in the world. There's more players like Svech that I want to talk about, so stay tuned for my upcoming videos where I cover the best and worst value on a platform like Yahoo, ESPN, etc., going over points leagues and category leagues. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.